Hey folks, welcome to You Are an IP Company, the special global book launch live stream. I have with me my fantastic co-author, Katherine Rubino. How you doing today?
Hi, Kary. I'm great. How about you?
I'm doing great. Listen, you were eating cake last week. I had cake last night. I rarely have cake, but we had to celebrate. And listen, this is the launch of a new era. I put that in my email. We already have a dozen people watching, and we're going to have more jumping on all over the place. But the new era, in my opinion, is that we are going to help entrepreneurs in a big, big way identify their IP and then protect their IP. So, Katie, why don't you give a little background about who you are? And then we're going to give away a ton of prizes today, including a grand prize. We'll get more into that. But why don't you give people a little backstory?
Sure. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today. We're super excited to celebrate the launch of the book, and I have my copy here too. And really, the driving force behind the book was to really help educate the entrepreneur community. Kary and I both come at this book with different backgrounds and different perspectives on IP. And that's what we really tried to capture here is I think a common problem we both witness every day is that a lot of entrepreneurs are very hyper focused growing their business. And a lot of times they don't even realize that they've created intellectual property. So with this book, we aim to really help them unlock the potential of that and really start to integrate different systems in place to help streamline the process moving forward as well.
I love it. I love it. Here's what we're going to do, folks. Katie nailed it. We are going to encourage you to tag your entrepreneurial friends. So I see Jimmy Z here, one of our authors. I see Carolyn, one of our authors, John, Travis, Tim, Sheila. I mean, we got people from all over the world here. Here's what I'd love for you to do. Tag a friend right now. We're going to give away the most engaged member. They're going to get a huge grand prize. I'll explain more about that in a moment. But this is really for any author, any entrepreneur, anyone who has any idea, whether they realize it or not. We are going to teach you how to protect your IP. We're actually going to demo some of the things. We're going to talk about the book. We're going to unpack some of the stories. These are brands like Disney, CrossFit, Krispy Kreme, Taylor Swift even. We're going to talk about how the people who are crushing it today, whether you like their products or not, they see themselves differently. And that's pretty much the main point of this whole live stream is that you have to see yourselves differently. Katie, I will tell you that literally every day something happens, like within the last 48 hours at the university where I teach. We just had somebody who there was an IP issue. Let's just say that. Let's say that kindly. And the fact that we were able to show that one person had protected the idea before the other person, because again, you're in a stream of consciousness. There's ideas floating all over the place. But here's what happens, Katie. I don't think in the moment people realize they have an idea until they see someone else steal it.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? I see this all the time. I see how people think, oh my gosh, I just saw a commercial and that person stole my idea. I can't believe it. And it's like, well, why didn't you do anything with it? you know,
Yeah.
have you ever see that? Like people?
Oh, it happens a lot. Yeah. And, a lot of times too that it's maybe innocent, right? That the idea was stolen. It could have just been someone didn't even know about it. But it happens quite frequently. And that's why being very proactive about your intellectual property it becomes so important.
Yeah. Well, I want to show people you and I in the book. I'm so glad Katie agreed to co-author it because this was a real dream of mine to co-author with Katie. But I want people to just see a few of these images. Can you see this, Katie?
Yes.
Okay. So let's just take, by the way, we have Emily Raff watching, or she will watch, but she commented the other day about this picture because she's a musician. She actually knows our friend Evan Ryan, But she liked this comment because she realized, you know what? Taylor Swift is out there with a $1.6 billion. And most people think that she's an entertainer and a musician. But Katie, you and I, in the course of the book, we pick 12 brands and we show how these 12 brands think of themselves differently. Why is Taylor Swift worth 1.6 billion? What has she done in the IP world?
Yeah, it's very impressive when you hear this, because what most people don't realize is that Taylor Swift has taken a very aggressive stance on protecting all of her unique naming and branding on her tours, her tour names, her different albums, covers, her songs, but she's protected all this IP that she's amassed, and that has really helped enhance her value, because other people can't just start a fearless tour, right?
That's
So
right.
it kind of gives her the ability to control how it will be used
That's
in
right.
commerce.
Absolutely. And then we go into other brands, and this is kind of fun to just show some of these things. But your local donut shop, yeah, they might produce some donuts, but most likely they don't have any IP. And because of that, it's very hard to show the value of that company. I mean, it's not that it's not worth anything, but when you go to value something that has zero IP, but Krispy Kreme, on the other hand, they see themselves as an IP company, and all you need to do is look at their patents, their trade secrets, their trademarks, and their value is now 1.94 billion. And I know what people are thinking, Katie. People are thinking, but I'm not Krispy Kreme and I'm not Taylor Swift. But you and I both know that our favorite people, some of our favorite people, strategic coach, they see themselves differently. I mean, the local business coach doesn't have any IP, and therefore they really don't have any value when they go to sell their company someday. Strategic coach, on the other hand, look at this: 250 thinking tools, 2,000 plus copyrights, 200 plus trademarks, 42 patents, 65 patents pending, and the value is over $500 million. And we know these people, Dan and Babs, and why do you think Dan and Babs take such a serious look at the IP that they're creating?
Yeah, I think, just businesses in general, when they take a very aggressive stance on their IP, a lot of times they understand the value that's involved behind it. So once you really, that's really a driving factor for the book too, to really walk people through the monetization aspects of
Yep.
their IP, because a lot of times people will get a patent or a trademark and then they don't do anything with it. So
Right.
it becomes this, piece of paper from the government that they spent time and money on, and they're not sure what it's worth or what to do with it. And so once you have those assets, you can really start to employ a host of different monetization strategies to start to create revenue streams through your intellectual property.
I love that. In the book, we purposely put so much gold in this. In fact, every single chapter has, well, I'm going to show people here a couple things. In the book, first of all, there's 12 steps, and this is step 9, maximize, which is identify potential IP, competitors, clients, and collaborators. But if you see here, folks, you're going to see, and tell me if I got this right, Katie, I'm trying to go here. You see that little circle of confidence? So in the chapter, we build 9 steps. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to show that every author, every entrepreneur, everybody who's watching today, if they don't put a fence around their ideas, other people are going to come in and intentionally or unintentionally trespass. You saw this happen to me, Katie, 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
Remember this? 3 weeks ago, I'm writing the final footnote on this, and I just Google, I just write abracadabra blockchain. I Google it, and an article pops up. And I say to myself, oh my gosh, this is interesting. Somebody wrote an article on blockchain abracadabra. That was in my TEDx talk. And I start reading, and I'm like, oh, wow, this is my TEDx talk. And I saw somebody else, a gentleman named Sergi, had stolen it. And I thought, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And again, I wasn't like, I'm going to get this guy. I'm going to, rip him to shreds. In one way, I'm like, cool, the idea is getting spread. But in another place, no citation, no reference. And my team and I, we spend a ton of time on that TEDx talk. It's been watched by over 1 million people. And the point is this: when you don't call people out for taking ideas, why is that bad for everyone?
Yeah. Just like in this example with you, this gentleman, he wasn't even aware that this had happened. He had generated this article with AI.
With AI.
And the AI had just pulled in your talk. So as soon as you told him about it, he immediately took it down. He was very apologetic. And so a lot of times it's simple unawareness. Other times it could be a different scenario, but again, that's where it all comes back to protecting your IP, because if you don't have it protected, then you can't go enforce it when something like this does happen.
I love that. I love that. So yeah, I posted about it because I thought, I'm going to take advantage of this situation and basically just use it as a teaching point. And here this gentleman, sure enough, there it is right there. And I commented, first thing I do, by the way, this is a tip, everybody. So write this down if you're watching this, but I would screenshot anytime you think somebody is infringing, because Katie, sure enough, the moment after I emailed him, it was down. It was down in like 2 minutes. So, a lot of people saw this, a lot of people responded, but the cool thing is that the gentleman responded very kindly, very apologetically. And he said, look, you're right. My team and I used AI. We didn't mean to do that. And we apologize and we're taking it down. And I responded back and I said, hey, look, you're a total gentleman. I get it. But this is why we're trying to make this happen, because listen, AI is cool and all that, and it's going to help a lot of people. But if our authors who are watching or our entrepreneurs feel like, well, gee, anything I create is going to be stolen and I have no course of protection, that's not good for anybody. And here's our why, Katie. We start the book with our why. And I want people to see this because the why is about changing the world. Maybe you can see this, but basically, you and I both agree that ideas change the world. Ideas are valuable, but because they're valuable, people steal it. And when people steal it, creators stop creating, and then the world doesn't change. And so that's why you need to protect your ideas. Katie, you started your career in pharmacy. And so you were in this whole area of creating, what is it fair to say, like prescriptions and drugs and stuff like that?
Everything, yeah, all of the above there.
Yeah. So there's a lot of IP in drugs. In fact, I might have a medicine bottle around here. Who knows? But
Okay.
but let's just talk about, because I know what people are thinking. Like, wow, Pfizer, these people. I mean, they're big. The companies we always hear about. But
Right.
why is it important for a diabetes medicine?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. I actually have a bottle of
there you go. There you go.
And so in this one, bottle of medication here, there's so much intellectual property. So a company like Bayer, they have their name protected with a trademark. Typically, if this was a brand name drug, the drug name itself too would also be protected with a trademark. This is just a generic aspirin, so that's gone off label. But then the medication itself, there's usually a lot of patents surrounding anything on how the drug is formulated, the ingredients in the drug, how it's synthesized, methods of manufacturing it, methods of use. There's a host of ways to protect that. And then the drug label itself has in the package insert has a lot of information about, the drug's effect on your body and these side effects. And so all of that is protected with copyright. So it's incredible to think about these everyday products that we use nonstop and that they have so much IP in them inherently.
And people might be thinking, oh my gosh, this topic, it's so boring. But here's what we're finding. The book has come out, Katie, and there is a massive amount of reviews already hitting. I mean, it's shocking to see how many reviews are here. But what I love to see as you scroll down, that people are starting to respond, and they're like, you know what, this topic isn't something that I would normally even read, but I got to read some of these to you. Okay. So as a lawyer, look at this. As a lawyer, this book is a gem. I must say there are few aware of the future that lies in intangibles. That's intellectual property. The book helps us give us clarity of the importance of IP, something that, although in the United States is more developed than elsewhere, it's a fantastic guide for entrepreneurs. It should be, in fact, a Bible, as it teaches them to do this from the beginning and the way it is. This book helps identify what can be protected, the importance of protecting it at right time, and the protection. I love the book. What do you think about when you see that from a lawyer?
I think that's great because the whole purpose of the book too was a lot of times IP is thought of as like this really weird area of the law that's very kind of complicated.
Yeah.
And so to have someone read this who maybe doesn't practice in this area, it's very helpful because we really tried to make this book digestible for everybody so that we could take these complex concepts and laws and rules
Yep.
and distill it down so that it is easy to implement in your business.
Well, you nailed it. This person says, look, I don't even know anything about this topic, but the authors managed to make it explain it in an accessible way, and why it's essential not only for large corporations, but any entrepreneur who wants to see their business grow. And that's really, you're right, why we did it. We pull from stories about CrossFit. And what I don't think people realize is even the smell, this was kind of my favorite ones, the smell of Play-Doh is IP. And people are like, what? John Deere colors are IP that are protected. Tiffany boxes. And what I want people to realize, Katie, is that, can you hold up that bottle again of that?
Oh, sure.
If that isn't IP, you know the stories that people will take that medicine, and there's been stories of people who've died. Like that happened when you were in the pharmacy world, right?
Yeah. You know, if especially in the drug world, if things aren't made to a certain set of standards, it can really create a lot of problems and even, you know, cause death. So that's another reason why it can be so important as well, because there can be issues down the road if, let's say, generic manufacturers come in and start making things.
Yeah, absolutely. And the book is fun. Where, you know, you get into Dr. Pepper, and look, you can tell, folks, these are legit reviews. Why? Because we got a 4-star. It's cool. She loves it, but we got a 4-star. It's cool. You know, it's no problem. But she talks about in these reviews, yeah, it's a 12-step guide, and it's a total resource. Not only Taylor Swift, but we can all be. Here's the principle we talk about, Katie. And we show that if you don't, people will say right now, well, Taylor Swift, she's big, so she protects her IP. We say in the book, you don't protect your IP when you're big. You become big by protecting your IP. And we give a lot of examples of 21 Pilots and, you know, Dr. Pepper and all these people that were in the beginning of their journey and started to protect their IP. And that's why we know about them today versus people who, you know, Legos is one of our stories. But why do you say right now, literally where everyone is? I see a lot of authors here. I see a lot of entrepreneurs. Why should they protect their IP now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this comes up all the time. I'd say, as a general preface, it's, if you haven't protected it, it's never too late to start. But in the United States in particular, we're in a first to file patent system. And so what that means is who's ever first in time to file the patent gets rights to the invention. So the longer you wait, the greater the chance some competitor or somebody else files something that could block you down the road. And I'd say this is becoming ever more increasingly important in this digital age that we live in, because everything is electronic, everything can be searched and replicated. So it's, everyone has easy access to information. And so chances are, if you're working on something or thinking about it, there's always that risk someone else could be too. And that's why it's always important to protect it. You don't want to get to a state where, you've grown your company, you haven't protected anything, and now all of your competitors can go file things to block you and really box you out from moving forward, or even, close up your business because you don't take any forward leaning steps to protect your intellectual property.
100%. So we're going to give away a really cool bonus to everybody. And I want to share that bonus with people because you have this passion. Oh yeah, Chris just bought it on Audible. Yes, folks, it just got on Audible. It's on paperback. It's on ebook. Listen, why are we doing this? Is it to sell books? Listen, if you think Katie and I wrote this book to get rich off of book royalties, think again. we know that this book is literally going to change lives. And so we created this special course for free for everyone who's here. We're going to give you the place where to download that. But watch this, folks. You're going to get this course for free. It's called You Are an IP Company. It's literally a $2,000 value. And you might say, how and why? Watch this, folks. So the course is literally the 12 steps. It's visualized, it's organized, it's systematized, it's monetized. Katie, let's go down to monetize. That's a pretty cool one. And let's show them that under monetize, there's this example of, guess what? 47 ways that they can monetize their IP. So this is just one example, but every single step has a PDF that is a thinking tool that is literally then below, and it's fillable. So this is not just so people learn about IP, it's so that they see themselves and their company as IP. There's incredible bonuses below. This is one of my favorite, Katie. A lot of people watching right now are speakers. And so there's this tool that we've created, which is the speaker slide. You can still see my screen, right, Katie?
Yeah.
This is a really fun one. One of our clients, one of our friends, Sunny Kala, he does these big conferences in Orlando. I mean, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of people. And he just co-wrote a book with Shannon Waller about winning global teams. I have it here on my I have it somewhere around here. But the point is this, think about it. He's in the room. He just came out with his book. He just came out with the concepts. And in the room are competitors, collaborators, and clients. And you've been in events like this. I have too, Katie, where the speaker's speaking and everyone's just going click, click, click. And they are literally clicking every single slide because they know it's gold. So what Sunny did this time and last year too, is he stood up and he said, you know what? I'm happy to be here today. I'm going to give it my best. But before we dive into it, I just want you to know that everything you're about to see is protected by instant IP, by blockchain technology using smart contracts. And so if you misuse it or use it without writing from our team, it's going to be punishable by law. Let's get started today. And if you say it with a smile, as Dan Sullivan teaches us, when we do that, suddenly everybody in the room, a couple things happen. They think, oh my gosh, this guy takes his IP seriously. They say, this guy just drew a fence around his IP. I'm going to listen in. I'm going to pay more attention. I'm going to actually hire this guy because he's valuable. So what do you think it does for the speaker and their confidence?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I get this question all the time from entrepreneurs who are going to go talk about their technology at these conferences, at these events, and they're obviously very excited to share their discoveries and their research with other members of the community. But there's always this fear or this worry that somebody's going to see this and then steal my idea.
Yeah.
And that's where, if you have taken the steps to protect it, it really helps give you that confidence boost going into it, so that you feel more comfortable with what you're sharing with
Yes. Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
And I think you,
So
maybe
here's,
Kary, you also felt that way at your TED Talk,
oh my
right?
gosh,
I think
absolutely.
that's a great story.
That is a great story. Yeah. By the way, folks, Katie is reminding me of a story that we tell in the audiobook. I would just tell you, if you get the physical book, get the audiobook too, and I'll tell you why. Because in the audiobook, we give a ton of extra bonus content. So it's during our interview, and I'm interviewing Katie and she's interviewing me, and we're just dropping gold everywhere. So it's really cool. But yes, Katie, you are right. I'm going to demo Instant IP in a moment. And Instant IP, listen, folks, you might say, how are you and Katie? And Katie represents Caldwell. And we got to give a big shout out to everybody at Caldwell. Katie's in the office. I love Caldwell. In fact, my son Keegan, we toured the 51st floor,
59, close. Yeah.
59th floor. They're in like the biggest building in Boston, and they're just an incredible company. And I highly recommend, if anybody needs legal services, they are the first people that I call. In fact, I'm going to show some ways that they helped me build this app. But I'm not against patents at all. In fact, I have 2 patents, maybe even more coming on Instant IP. I'm not against patents. In fact, I love them. I love trademarks. I love copyrights. I have all the above. And when we were going to do the TEDx talk about Instant IP and about blockchain technology, I was really nervous because well, I was nervous anyway, but but then
Understandably.
yeah, I was nervous to give the TEDx talk. But then I told Katie, I said, I'm going to share this idea. And if we don't have this thing protected, if we don't have the Instant IP patented, we hadn't built the technology yet. It was just the idea. I said, I'm nervous that somebody in the crowd is going to take this. And I've spent 2 years of my life, and I mean, it was a big deal. And then we kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And sometimes you do have to wait a while for a patent, even if you fast track it. And we had several rejections. And here I am in Oshkosh, Wisconsin with my family, ready to give the TEDx talk. And I look at my phone and it's Katie. And I'm like, oh my gosh, hold on. Because the dress rehearsal was that night. And I pick it up and I say, hey, what's up? And you say, the patent just got approved. And I was like, oh, thank you, God. I was so happy because I knew that night I could speak about the technology without the fear of somebody else taking it. And I think that's really important, folks, because listen, I know you all, we got Jimmy Z, we got Renee, we got all these good people here. But if you don't feel confident that your idea is protected, I'll tell you why you start getting worried. So right here is the TEDx, and I was nervous, but then but then we got the word. But I'll tell you why, Katie. When you know that your idea is protected, it just frees you up. You don't have to live in scarcity. And I know that a lot of people here want to help people. In fact, get this, Katie. I talk about IP to certain people. Dan tells a funny story too. There's a lot of people in the personal growth industry who are like, oh, don't worry about anyone stealing your IP. I don't care if you take my stuff. When people say that, it's usually because they stole everything from everybody else. That's one person. The other person doesn't see any value in what it created. Remember our friend, we won't say his name, but our friend created this amazing technology around I'm just going to say the industry around fireplaces, and it prevents kids from getting burned. And I remember him saying, oh, I don't care if people take my technology. I know they already do. And one lady turned to him in our workshop and said, I get it. I get it. You're being generous. I get it. What happens though if your competitor, who you know is already stealing your IP, protects the technology that you created and locks you out? And all of a sudden his face went white. It really did. And he's like, our business would go under. Like, talk to us about that, because even the generous person, right, who says, oh, I don't care if people take my IP. Fine. What if they take it and lock you out?
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Katie?
Yeah, it's a real threat. And that's why, too, we talk about this a lot in the book in some of the later chapters, but there's ways to protect your IP and then still be generous with it, right? There's
Yes.
ways you can license it for minimal royalties. There's ways you can license it for, zero royalties. But by virtue of you protecting it, you then have an asset that you can control the use of, and you can
That's so
dictate
good.
what that use looks like. And there, a lot of times, patents can be very collaborative, but you need to take that first step to protect it to be able to then control it. And I think that's a real problem when you don't protect it, because then these competitors, they just reverse engineer it. They do all these things and they block you out. And over time, it can really, put up a lot of firewalls for you to get any sort of product out. And we've even seen companies go out of business because of this issue.
Absolutely. In the book, I don't pull any punches. I share it, and I share how a multi-billion-dollar company in July sent me a letter and said, "Hey, you know that name that you're using that you thought you had rights to, which we thought we had rights to, even the government thought we had rights to it." They came out of the woodwork and they said, "Actually, we were there first," and they showed us validation. And we had to either say, A, we're going to go to war with them. B, we're going to pay license fees for the rest of our life. Or C, we're going to rebrand. And that's where Nick on your team, amazing guy, Nick Holmes.
Nick Holmes.
Nick
Yep.
Holmes. I'm telling you, I love the Caldwell people. Big shout out to Jameson. What's Jameson's last name?
Jameson Pasick.
Big shout out. And of course, founder himself, Keegan Caldwell. Just the Caldwell team, they're amazing. But they told me, look, we think you should rebrand. And I said, you know what? I'm rebranding. I'm like, I don't have the fees to fight a multi-billion-dollar company. And so I rebranded, but this is true. Like, I share that story, but I want to talk about, it's so cool that we highlight different companies, because we highlight EOS, and you said people who are generous with their IP. Entrepreneur Operating System, Kelly Knight, Mark O'Donnell, they're leading the ship there. It was founded by Gino Wickman. Over 250,000 companies in the planet run on EOS, but EOS protected all their IP. But then what they did is they share it. So kind of like you talk about, what is it called? The patent pledge. Was it Elon Musk or other people who have IP, but then they share it.
That's
but
right.
You got to protect it first, though. What happens if you don't protect it first?
Yeah. If you don't protect it, then someone else can protect it and then block you. Or even worse, in the US, we have this 1 year disclosure rule. So if you start selling it or talking about it or sharing it without protecting it, you have 1 year from your first disclosure to protect it. Otherwise, you'll block your ability to do so.
Oh, that's
so that's a threat too that a lot of people don't know about, because they'll kind of innocently go talk at a conference or something about this technology. Then 3 years later, they come see me and they tell me all this, and we have an issue then. But it's why you always want to be protecting things early and first, because there are a lot of things that can block your ability to do so if you don't go do that proactively.
That's so good. I want to encourage people to stick around, because look, we're going to go a few more minutes here, but here's just one of the things you might win. We're going to give away one grand prize. Everyone's going to get a prize worth $2,000, but we're going to give away one grand prize worth $5,000. This is a one-on-one with Katie and I, an intellectual property optimization session where we literally help you think through and map out and strategize what your IP could do in the world. So this is something that we're going to give away to the most engaged member. What does that mean? That means that we see people all over LinkedIn. We see people on Facebook. We see people on Twitter, on X. We see people all over the world. And if you want to be ender to win, what you need to do is you need to comment You need to tag somebody and spread the word. Why? Because Katie and I care about entrepreneurs. We want the world to keep creating life-changing ideas. Awesome. So, Katie, let's do this. Let's demo to them a little bit of instant IP, because Caldwell helped me a ton with this technology. I got to give a big shout out to Evan Ryan and Teammate AI as well. They helped us with the app. Big shout out to them and all the people that we featured in the book. These 12 stories, including Strategic Coach, especially, but also EOS. We did Seed Spark as well. And don't forget, every single chapter has these thinking tools and then the QR codes with extra bonuses too. But I got big shout out to Seed Spark, because Seed Spark, our friend Chad Jenkins talks all about how naming IP is important. And Katie, why don't you tee that up? How naming and describing the IP is very important. In fact, that's what you do when you file IP. You have to name it and describe it. Why is that important?
Yeah. So a lot of times companies will create names for different, maybe product lines, different offerings, maybe different packages of services. Mm-hmm. And they'll come up with these unique names for them. And right there, that's then something that they can protect with trademarks. Trademarks really protect the naming and branding, any logos that go along with the naming. And you don't want to get into a situation where you don't protect it, and somebody else does, and then you're forced to change your name.
Yeah.
Because at that point, it can be a very big expense for the business to have to go through a whole rebranding, because you immediately, have to cease using that name. Any materials you paid to have printed or published that use the name have to be destroyed. So it can be a big hurdle, and then you kind of have to start over, because now you've picked a new name and you need to now build up new recognition by consumers for those new names. And so it just really creates a lot of complexities, so that sort of the sooner you can get things recorded and filed and protected, it's going to just make things smoother down the road.
I love that. I love that. So what I want people to do, thank you, Richard, and for looking to get the book, Jimmy Z, Annika. So if you want that private session, go ahead and just type in why, because we have people that are watching, and we want to know, like, what are you going to do with your IP? Are you going to help people? Are you going to create monetization? Like, tell us why, because that gets us excited. Okay. Now, Katie, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show people, and by the way, everybody can go to this link here right now and watch what I'm doing. In fact, we encourage people to do this. On purpose, Katie, our app is not in the App Store. We didn't want the most valuable brand on the planet, or second most valuable, Apple, the App Store, or whatever, to have access to people's IP. So it's called a web app. You can only access it via your phone, tablet, computer, wherever. But you go to instantip.app. We're going to talk about patents in a moment. But Katie, let's talk about Instant IP, because when people go there, they're going to get to try one on free. And I'm going to demo it here. But notice, Katie, we put a patent on this. So thank you. That took a lot of time, on your end, and it's an investment, but we have a patent on this, because we know, look, I'll show one chart really quick before we get into it. But in our book, we talk about this chart called the IP comparison chart, and not everyone can afford a patent right out of the gate. Certain people can, and that's cool. But that I work with a lot of university students, and these people are just trying to get off the ground. And so patents, are over here, and this is like the Great Wall of China. I mean, this is like legit big fence. So, Katie, we have patents on it. We have trademarks on it. We have a copyrighted now through the book, and we also instant IP'd it. So we have like 4 fences around instant IP. But it keeps us confident. But let's talk about this really quick, Katie, before we demo it. Do you think that certain people should jump right to a patent? What if their cash flow is struggling a little?
Yeah, good question. And yeah, I should have said this at the beginning too, but I have to just say everything we're talking about today is not for the purpose of providing legal advice, but
Truth.
Just as a hypothetical here, a lot of times I also do a lot of work with university students, and my office is close to MIT, so I do a lot of kind of pro bono work there. And if, let's say, it's a student, right, and they don't have tons of money to file a patent, not the end of the world. What you could always consider doing is filing what's called a provisional patent. It's sort of a placeholder patent. Mm-hmm. You can file it yourself. The filing fees are pretty cheap, about $150. Mm-hmm. And that'll get your invention a filing date and on record, especially if you're going to go talk or, there's some kind of public disclosure, you need to get protection fast. Mm-hmm. And another idea too is to think about a tool such as Instant IP that gives you a blockchain recording for documenting a trade secret, to say, okay, this was a trade secret that I thought of on this day, so that then you have some verification of that, and you can maintain it as a trade secret as long as you want, so long as you keep it secret, and come back to it. Maybe if you're doing some R&D, you need to flesh out the idea a bit more, but it kind of gives you that flexibility as you're sorting out, is this going to be a patent, is it not, and how important it might be to your business.
I love that. I love that. So Katie, let's say that I want to protect this infographic, right? In other words, there's something we put in our book. It's the 12 steps. It's pretty cool. Did you ever get yours, by the way, in the mail?
Yes. Thank you. I just got it this morning.
Oh, just this morning. Okay.
Yeah. I think it got stuck, delayed in our mail.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Yes. All right.
So cool.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
I'm going to hang it up behind me here.
I'm glad it didn't break.
No, it's perfect.
Okay. So let's say we want to protect this, folks, right? And you might say, well, how do you protect an image or a file or a movie or all these things? We're actually going to show it to you. It's pretty slick here. So let's take you to instantip.app, and here it is. So when you're logged in, folks, all you need to do is you need to enter your name, enter your email, confirm the terms and services. Then you go to your email and you basically confirm it, right? It's a little bit of a security measure because this is IP and it's serious stuff. And then we preload you with one credit, one smart contract. So you can access this via your phone, your tablet, your computer. But let's say we hit take photo, and let's say we want to protect this, and we say, oh, I want to protect this infographic. So what we have to do is we have to name it. So let's call this the info. You are an IP company. You are an IP company infographic. Okay, and I'll say a thinking tool by Kary Oberbrunner and Kary Rubino. Now, I got to give a big shout out to your buddy Jameson, because, folks, check this out. This is very important, and this will get into some legal things, but you'll see this in a moment. When you go to protect this, right now it's hidden. So Katie, Caldwell told me, look, when you build out this app, Kary, make everything hidden on purpose, because if they go protect it and they hit public, basically the time has started where now it's no longer a trade secret.
Right.
So they went public. Okay. And if you're like, where is this scene? I'll show you in a moment. But now I'm going to hit public just so you can see the big warning screen that Jameson told us to do. I don't know if I ever showed you this yet, Katie. But again, Caldwell's so smart. They said, look, make a warning screen that says, look, by going public, this is no longer a trade secret. And Katie, I had somebody just yesterday ask, his name is Travis White, he's watching, but he said, when should I go public and when should I keep it a trade secret? And what I told him, what I told Travis was, this is called IP marking. And by you going public, you're basically telling the world, I am drawing a fence around my IP, and I want you to know that there's a fence around it. Is that kind of why people go public with their IP versus a trade secret? What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say they usually go public when once it's been protected at the USPTO. So once they filed the patent, the interesting thing here is that patents, when you file them at the patent office, they are not published. So they kind of remain secret for 18 months from filing. So there's this 1.5-year window where you might file something, your competitors might, and you don't know about it. And then the patents publish around that 18-month mark. And so that's when other people would be able to go search for it and find it. So, you have to always balance risk and reward. Sometimes companies will publish trade secrets, let's say, that they want to just put out there to block somebody else. So that could be kind of like a strategic decision if you want to just publish something to block others, but you don't want to protect it maybe. That can happen sometimes. And maybe too, if the idea just doesn't really take off, right? And maybe you want to just donate it to the public domain, you could think about that too. So there's a lot of different reasons that you would want to think about and balance before publishing it.
I love it. So, because I want the whole world to know about this, I'm going to hit public and I'm going to hit protect my idea. And I'm going to say, yep, I don't want it to be a trade secret. Why? Because it's an infographic and I want the whole world to know. And by the way, Katie, a TM, an R, a C, these are all normal examples that most of the people watching would be like, oh yeah, of course I've seen that. Of course I've seen an R with a circle around it, or a TM. That's a way of IP marking. Is that fair to say?
Sort of. Yeah, I would say it's a way of kind of putting the world on notice that you're protecting your branding. So usually you would put an R with a circle after the trademark name once you get that federal registration from the trademark office. Patent marking, that's a whole different thing. And that happens later on. Once your patent is approved.
That's like right here what I did.
You would put the patent number on the product or the service that's covered by it.
Love it. Love it. So we're going to hit protect my idea. I'm going to hit boom public. I'm going to hit submit. And what's happening right now, folks, is we are literally creating a smart contract. So I hit credit. By the way, your wallet has one right in there. We actually include a credit in there for everybody so they can try it out. And right now what's happening is it's basically pretty cool things. It's taking your idea, it's putting it on the blockchain. And as a result, there it is, boom, that quick. And now what happened is I can see what we protected by clicking this. Oh, there it is. That's cool. We can also click the certificate, which then tells the world, look, here's your protected IP certificate. And by the way, again, thanks Nick Holmes for this advice, but we created a superscript IP. So the superscript IP is now after what I named, and this acts as a license. So this is a certification mark, which again, we filed with the United States government, which basically says, look, you are an IP company, infographic, superscript IP. Now I'm the only one on the planet who can use that, and it's backed by a smart contract. Here it is on the blockchain, and this proof of creation, watch this. This 97F. Look at the last 3 digits, 97F. Now, oh wait, can you even see this, Katie? You probably can't even see that. Can you see that?
No, we're seeing the you are protected.
I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you. I'm so glad I had a like aha moment. I'm like, oh my gosh, you can't see it. So let me show you that. Boom, there it is. Okay, so that literally pops. Now can you see it?
Yes, now we have it.
Okay. So that's the example that I was trying to say, because again, I can't see 50 screens at once. I got a lot of screens up, but there it is. There it is, timestamped 1:19 and 19 seconds. That date can never be changed. That time. There's the superscript IP. There's the proof of creation, the digital fingerprint. There it is minted on the blockchain. And sure enough, here it is as a certification mark. That's what I was trying to say, is this is the 97F. So now let me go back to the app here. And when we go back to the app, people can see that. You tell me if you can see that. Can you still see this, Katie?
We're seeing now
This
that
thing?
Yeah.
Perfect. Now I hope this opens up and you can see it.
Okay.
Are you on the blockchain, or do I need to share it?
No, we're not on the blockchain.
No problem. I'll show it to you. Boom, here we go. Zoom is a better feature for all this, but here it is. I'll show it to you. Now you can see it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So here it is in the blockchain, and then we come down and sure enough, there it is. There's the timestamp, right? Again, nobody ever can change that date. I can't, you can't, nobody can change the name. Nobody can change the description. And I come down, and do you see when I click more to show, did you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'll hit decode input data. And sure enough, there is that fingerprint. There's that 697F. So in other words, the certificate matches the blockchain, which matches the portal. That's like a 3-factor authentication. It all comes back to the timestamp of when we actually drew a line in the sand, because all intellectual property is based on timing. So there's the app. That's pretty slick. And again, we wanted to give people, because I know you work with a lot of companies. You work with companies of all sizes, $1 million companies, $1 billion companies, and not everyone has those funds. And so Instant IP, we tell people it's not to replace patents, trademarks, copyrights. Those are the big dogs. But what this does is a first layer, fast layer that you can then draw a line in the sand. And we even had somebody, like I said, in the last 48 hours, prove to somebody who was infringing upon them. I had that idea last September. Here's the proof. And what it did, Katie, is it basically toned down the infringer, and we were able to have a conversation. You know, and would you agree that not everything needs to turn into a court situation?
Yeah, I'd say, in any kind of dispute, you want to, hopefully the goal is to kind of settle things amicably.
Okay.
So that it doesn't have to go all the way to a court suit, right? So that's really the goal for any business dispute.
Yep. I love it. Well, we are going to pick the winner in the next 6 minutes, and then we're going to call it a day. But first, we're going to give everyone a special bonus here. So everybody, by the way, Katie, I'm seeing a lot of people saying that they got the audiobook. They got the...
Me too. It's exciting.
Yeah. That's cool. I can't wait to hear them listen and learn. But what we do want to show them is that they are going to get this $2,000 course. All they need to do, there's no upsell. They hit their name, they hit their last name, their email, they hit submit, and then boom, they're going to get this entire robust "You Are an IP Company" course that they can do with themselves. There's videos from me. There's stuff Katie and I have done in there. There's thinking tools. But they're really going to learn that I am an IP company, and I should start thinking about this and protecting. So, Tanisha, if you can drop that link in there, boom, there it is. Check it out right there. And then, Katie, before we pick the winner in 5 minutes, what did this book do for you? Because I know you help a lot of people on the 59th floor. Chris said she visited you, by the way. Do you know who Chris is? I don't know. Couple times ago, I think she said she's been on the 59th floor.
Okay.
So you got some friends here, but
yeah.
But what do you think this book, I mean, is going to do for people? Because I know IP lawyers are a different breed. What do you think is going to kind of like get the word out to people? What's going to happen?
Yeah, I think it is, because, and we talk about this a bit in the book, since about 1970, there's been this massive shift in the value of S&P 500 companies into their intangible assets. So in 1970, about maybe 20% of the value of the S&P 500 was in intangibles, whereas now in present day, that shifted all the way to close to 90%, which is huge. That's very massive. And so there, especially in this digital age we're in now, there's so much IP being generated every single day that the kind of the messaging and the hope for the book here is that people really can learn about IP and they can learn some simple tips of how to go about starting to protect their own IP. And this graphic here is great. This is what I'm talking about. You can see in 1975, intangibles represented about 17% of that value. And by 2020, it's upwards of 90% of the value.
It's unbelievable.
It is.
And that's probably the biggest thing that pumps me about this book is that it's an identity shift. And Sarah and I have had this chat. By the way, big shout out to my team, your team. I know they helped us out a lot. But Sarah and I have chatted that the first step that people need to do is they first need to think of themselves differently. Because if they don't see themselves as valuable or that they're creating IP, they're not going to do anything. And other people are just going to take their ideas. So the first step, I think, is that they need to think about themselves as an IP company. I love what you're saying. So you think that because of the shift into digital and into AI, we're in a new world, and the smart people will begin to say, how am I going to leave my children, my friends, my legacy with value?
Right.
It's funny. Dan, we were just on a call literally an hour ago with Dan Sullivan, and I think he referenced the example we talk about with Rembrandts in your attic. He literally said that. So either A, we're doing whatever you call it, where we read each other's thoughts, or he read the book. But the Rembrandt, there's a lot of people with Rembrandts in their attic.
That's right. And a lot of them don't even know they're there. That's, I think, the most eye-opening part of the book too, is that they have all this stuff and they don't even realize what it's worth or the value of it. And I think that's a natural course of progression, especially with entrepreneurs, because they're so ingrained in their technology every day that they think these small changes or tweaks to what others are doing, maybe they're not valuable, but a lot of times it's those small differentiators that can really add to a lot of different value.
That's it. I mean, I think I want people to be in a boardroom, and instead of thinking, oh, that's a great idea, maybe 5 years from now we'll do something, I want them to whip out their phone, go from smartphone to smart contract, timestamp, and then call Caldwell, and then go through, more levels of protection. So that's exciting. We're going to give away the ultimate prize here, and we will connect with this person, and we will get them information on how they redeem this. So everyone else, though, Craig says his internet is down. How does he access the course, folks? InstantIP.today/bonuses. InstantIP.today/bonuses. That's how everybody gets the $2,000 level course free. The person that we're going to pick, I didn't pick them. I need to look at my notes. I'm getting private messages from our team who does a random selection, and they have picked the winner. Let me get that person's name. It is this person. Chris Kowalik. Chris Kowalik. Yay. Chris Kowalik, you get the one-on-one IP strategy optimization. Everyone else, I want you to read the book. I want you to use the thinking tools. I want you to think of yourselves differently. And I want you to start reaching out to Caldwell or using Instant IP and start raising the value. So Katie, it has been a deep, deep honor to be your co-author, and you're changing lives, my friend.
No, it's awesome. I'm so excited about this, and just the fact that it's real and it's here today is just very exciting.
It's so good. Caldwell Law, is that the website? Caldwell Law?
Yes, CaldwellLaw.com.
CaldwellLaw.com. And then, folks, some of you asked, like, where do you see the protected IP? You go to instantip.today/protected, type in anybody's IP or company. You can see all the hundreds of people that have protected their IP already. Katie and I have a podcast that we do every week. Make sure you check it out. There's already 3 episodes, boom, right there, and all kinds of stuff. So thanks, Katie. Thanks, everyone, for being here, and congrats on the book launch.
Thanks so much.
All right, we'll see everybody.